the Fantastic Four.
Come through the door. Let's
All right. Okay, here we go. Fantastic Four, first steps. The movie to bring back the MCU. Oh, and everybody on Reddit says, it's such a comic book movie. This is the great response that I've been seeing to like superhero movies lately. This it's such a comic book movie. It really captures the feel of a comic book. I mean, yeah, they all kind of do. I mean, most of the comic book movies we have had for like the last 10 or 15 years are very comic booky because they're comic book movies. That's not an argument. Like Superman isn't like you don't say Superman is great because it's such a comic book movie. That's like saying The Walking Dead is great because it's a zombie show. Yeah, that's the genre. I know what people are trying to say here. They're saying it captures the feel of a comic book better than like, I don't know, like Man of Steel. But I mean, Man of Steel captures the feel of a comic book. If you ask me, it's just a different comic book. I mean, all these comic book movies capture the feel of different comic books. It's just the nature of the beast. I don't think any of them have done a bad job necessarily of capturing that feel. So it's weird that I keep seeing all these people saying like, "Oh man, the Fantastic Four really captured that comic book movie. It's such a comic book feel." Okay. So what? That's not interesting to me. Fantastic Four, I think this new Fantastic Four First Steps, I think it suffered. It's a very different movie than James Gunn's Superman, but it's interesting to me how both movies sort of suffer from the same problems, or similar problems, I should say, when it comes at least to the script, when it comes to how things play out. Both are very similar in that we have our heroes so Fantastic Four, the heroes, this is like a different, this is Earth 828 instead of Earth 616, I think it is, that the rest of the MCU takes place on, but it's Earth 828, and the Fantastic Four are like the main superheroes of the world, and everybody loves them, and it's like the 60s. So it's a very different vibe. It's a retro-futuristic vibe, aesthetic, kind of mid-century modern, Jetsons, it's cool. I like it. I really like it. I dig the groovy vibe of the Fantastic Four First Steps. It's groovy, but they're very much celebrities, right? They're very popular. The public loves them. Similar to how Superman in the James Gunn Superman is very loved by the public. In both movies, the public quickly changes its public perception of our heroes for different reasons in each, but they both turn against them very quickly. And then that public perception changes back very quickly. So that's interesting just from a narrative standpoint. But also what happens in both films is that the heroes, like I've talked about this many times now, but the structure of the script in both movies is that something happens and then something else happens and then something else happens and then something else happens. In between those things happening, we don't really get our characters making hard choices, making bad decisions that lead to consequences, facing hard bargains, betrayal, sacrifice. There's not a lot of like turning points in either of these movies where our heroes are faced with a hard decision, or where they make a mistake and they screw things up and have to come back and fix it, or where they're posed with a real challenging choice, like, do I go save the people on the boat, or do I go save my girlfriend who the Joker is going to blow up? What do I do? That's a hard choice that Batman had to make in The Dark Knight. In Superman, there's one hard choice, right? He has to either go stop this war going on in fake Gaza, or he can go save Metropolis and the world, because the world's about to be destroyed by this pocket universe rift, black hole thing. He avoids having to make this hard choice by sending the Justice Gang to fake Gaza to stop fake Israel from bombing it and prevent Lex Luthor's evil plans. Well, he gets to go and stop Lex Luthor himself and save everyone from the rift. In Fantastic Four, there's not really any hard choices either. They are presented with one, essentially, which is Galactus wants their baby, or he'll destroy the world. He basically says, I'll spare your world if you give me your baby. this would be kind of maybe a hard choice if they really dug into it. Like yes, there's a little bit of conflict that this creates. Thank God there's a little bit, because Mr. Fantastic, Pedro Pascal's character, actually considers it to some degree. And he calls it the ethical choice. And in a way, yeah, like you can save the whole world just by giving up your baby. You can have another baby. You can't have another world. Well, you can because it's a multiverse, but theoretically, you can't have another world. 6 billion people die versus one. But we've had this conversation before with The Last of Us, and which also has Pedro Pascal. And obviously, I do think that you have to be able to protect the innocent, or there's not a world worth saving. So I'm not really against them choosing to save their baby. What I do have a problem with is that it is a pretty frictionless choice. Like, sure, yes, okay, the people are mad about it, but then Vanessa Kirby's character, Sue Storm, Invisible Woman, gives like a corny little speech to like, I don't know, 200 people gathered outside their apartment in New York City, and then everyone's like, okay, it's cool. We accept it. We're cool with dying for your baby. Unlike The Last of Us, it's pretty much guaranteed that if they just give up the baby, the world will be saved. Whereas in The Last of Us, it was not a sure thing if Ellie, was sacrificed to the scientists, the doctors with the fireflies. I don't know. Could they have made a cure? Would that have even stopped the outbreak? Just making some people immune. But I'm sidetracking myself here. That's pretty much the only ethical dilemma that the Fantastic Four face, and it's pretty much dismissed out of hand that no, of course they're not going to give up their baby. They're going to stop Galactus. And you would think that this planet-devouring, gargantuan supervillain would pose quite a problem, and it would be really hard to stop him. But as writer guy tells producer guy in the pitch meeting videos, it's actually super easy, barely an inconvenience. And while their first plan goes wrong, they quickly manage to rebound from the plan going wrong by Sue Storm going all mama bear and just being more powerful than Galactus in the last minute. Which people are saying, well, it's like a mom has that adrenaline and can lift a car up to save her baby. Yeah, it's like that. It's just kind of lame to wrap up a movie with that. But the real problem with the movie, if you ask me, is that the whole movie feels frictionless. There's some cool chases, like there's a cool space chase sequence when they're getting away from Galactus and Silver Surfer's chasing them, and they go to the black hole and they interstellar her into the black hole, there's a black hole, very similar black hole sequence in Superman, weirdly enough. But mostly it's like there's this early stuff in the film where you kind of get to know the Fantastic Four and this retrofuturistic 1960s New York, where, it just feels very different than our world. And that's really cool. And I was kind of enjoying that. But then like suddenly the Silver Surfer's there heralding the end of the world and the coming of Galactus. And then it's like the whole movie just shifts gears instantly. And it's like, save the world, save the world. And so the first half of the movie, I was really kind of enjoying, like getting to know everybody. And then the second half of the movie, it was like, here we go. We're back in this superhero formulaic bullshit again. And I'm so bored because I know what's going to happen. I know they're going to save the world. I'm so like, doesn't anybody ever get sick of this plot? The same plot over and over again. Evil guy comes, he's going to destroy the world, hero's going to stop him. Cool. I don't know, like, also Galactus feels like he should be this great, big, terrible, really hard to beat enemy with lots of build up, but he just goes down in the first movie he shows up in. I mean, compare that to Thanos. We had, I don't know how many movies, but like over a dozen, like well over a dozen movies setting up Thanos before Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. I mean, we had the first two Avengers movies, but also, throughout like Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain America, all these movies, we had, the Infinity Stones and hints of Thanos' involvement and sort of building up this major villain. And then he actually wins in the first movie, right? Like, it's pretty crazy. Like, that's a pretty bold move. Galactus just gets introduced and then his ass kicked in one movie, and it just feels kind of disappointing. Like, okay, they're setting up Doctor Doom, which is cool, But like, did they need to use Galactus for that, or did they need to have him actually show up on Earth and get his butt kicked and look so pathetic in the process? Like, he doesn't use that many powers. He's moving all slow. He's not that much bigger than like Ant-Man when Ant-Man gets big. I don't know. It felt like a pretty big letdown. So I also, I'm always complaining. I'm always complaining that these superhero movies are too long. I'm always like, it should be 20 minutes shorter. It should be 30 minutes shorter. Like, why do they have to drag? And then they release some shorter ones, and I'm like, these are too short. So that's annoying on my part. I know, but this movie felt rushed, and Superman felt rushed. It felt like these movies were just in such a hurry to get over that they never like let you just sort of slow down and be in the world. And like, I feel like this movie needed a sequence with a smaller villain. Like, they had Mole Man, which he was hilarious. Mole Man was like the highlight of the movie for me. But they needed like a villain that they actually like stop in the beginning of the movie together, and then like some fallout from that, and some, so you kind of see them in action, not just kind of like they show how they defeated these other villains, but they don't actually have like a scene with that. And I feel like they needed to kind of set some stuff up early on so that could be referenced later and have some of that payoff later, right? Set up a minor villain and show how they take him down, and then have that like come back later in the film when they take down Galactus, and you're like, oh, look how they did that. Like, a lot of movies, they set this up. They set up something early on, and then they pay it off later on, like at the end in the climax, so that there's that feeling of like, oh yeah, look at that. They set this up in the beginning, and then they paid it off in the end, and we feel really satisfied as audience members or as viewers, whatever, because moviegoers, because there's payoff. We see the artfulness of the setup. But here it's just like nothing's really set up. They just kind of go from one event to the next. And then they defeat this, they don't even really use like the plan, mosquito, the plan is silly. Like, first they're going to teleport the whole planet, which is really just ridiculous. And then they decide that since the Silver Surfer destroys all the teleporters that they've set up like really, really quickly all over the planet, they just have one left, and it's just the perfect size for Galactus. And they're going to trick him to stepping into it, and then they're going to teleport him off to some other part of the universe where he can't get them anymore. Which is kind of goofy when you realize that there's like a 45-second timer so they're going to have to keep him in there for 45 seconds, and they don't have a plan to do that at all. But he sees through their plan and is going to go get Franklin, their baby, who he wants to like transfer his curse to. But then, Invisible Woman is just able to use her enormous power to push him in there, and then Silver Surfer helps knock him in there when he almost gets out. And it's just, they don't really like use their team powers that much to like take down this huge enemy. And I just feel like it's just a letdown all around. And I'm kind of rambling at this point, so I'm sorry. Beyond that, like, I did like the aesthetic. I thought the actual casting was okay. I really liked Thing, but I thought he was really underused. But sort of the group felt like everyone's talking about how like, oh, they're so great and they're such a family and it's so wholesome, and I just love Pedro Pascal, and I don't know, guys. First of all, I think Pedro Pascal, I am a fan. I like him in a lot of things. I think he seems like a nice guy, and all the stuff that people are saying like he's creepy or like too touchy-feely or whatever, I don't buy it. But he's overcast with like a gray day, a rainy day. He's overcast. No, he's in too much shit. He's everywhere, and it's like the Timothée Chalamet problem. Like, familiarity breeds contempt. At a certain point, you just got to stop. Like, I watched the show Untamed on Netflix, and it's got Eric Bana in it, and he really reminded me a little bit of like, he kind of channeled. I don't want to say he was like doing the acting of Pedro Pascal, but he was like, I was like, okay, like I could see them casting Pedro Pascal in this role, and then I thought, man, Eric Bana would have been really good in The Last of Us. He would have made a great Joel, actually. And I kind of wish he had been, because like, how many roles can Pedro Pascal be in where he's trying to protect a fucking kid or a baby? Like Mandalorian, Last of Us, shit, Fantastic Four. He spends half the movie trying to protect a baby from, like, at a certain point, you've got to just stop casting him in everything. It's getting old. Joseph Quinn, who is Eddie in Stranger Things, plays Human Torch, Johnny Storm. I think he's a really great actor. I think he did a fine job. But they all sort of feel like less like a family and more like a group of people who just sort of met, if that makes sense. Like they don't like there's certain interactions where I feel like, okay, like those two feel like they're old friends and these two feel like a couple, but the whole group, I don't know, like it doesn't work like I'm going to compare it to another James Gunn movie, Guardians of the Galaxy. Like that group feels very like organic and like a family and comfortable around each other, and you get the banter all works. Here it just sort of feels odd, forced. And I am glad that they weren't as bantery and it wasn't as quippy and like jokey as a lot of other Marvel movies. I am glad about that. But they needed to replace that with something else, more character development that didn't use humor, and they didn't. So ultimately this movie felt flat and a little dull, and I just didn't love it. I loved the aesthetic, I loved the look and feel. The script felt very lazy. The movie overall was boring and just kind of a letdown. And I guess I'm not a huge Fantastic Four fan to begin with, so I'm not like going in there like, oh, my favorite superheroes. Can't wait for this comic book movie to be so comic book. Ooh. No, I don't really care that much about the Fantastic Four, but I do want a good superhero movie, and I want to be entertained. And this just didn't really do it for me and doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in, Avengers Doomsday or the future of the MCU. At this point, I feel like they are just phoning it in when it comes to the script, and none of the other stuff can make up for that. So you have cool CGI, you have cool special effects and chase scenes and a neat aesthetic and cool costume design and all that shit. And it doesn't matter because the script is dull and drab and flat, and I'm not invested and I don't care. Like seriously, Galactus could have eaten that entire planet and all the heroes, and I would have been like, kind of sucks, I guess, but I don't really care. And that's not how you should feel at the end of a movie like this. You should care, And what another better movie is when you want like a kind of family-ish dynamic that involves one of the characters dying and being brought back from the dead at the end after a fight with a really, really impossibly powerful supervillain. The Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie. That movie's so good, and it does everything this movie doesn't do. Like, it does everything this movie needed to do well. It does it well. The humor is great. The sincerity is very authentic and sincere in terms of its sense of humor. The characters do feel like a family with all the squabbling and conflict that entails, and it's emotionally poignant and powerful. And I get teary every time I watch that movie. Seriously, I'm not even kidding. I get like teared up, misty-eyed every time. I love that movie. I think it's a great example of a format or a formula. I don't want to say formula. That's bad, but like it's funny but not overly jokey. It's not too sarcastic like so much modern cinema, or especially like MCU stuff. It's got a earnestness that works and isn't cringe, and it has stakes that are personal, not just. There is at the end some like, big things are going to happen and kill a lot of people, but the stakes are mostly very personal, and so we're invested in them and the characters. I think if I was in charge of the MCU or DC, I would look at that movie and I would think, what can we do to make our movies work like that movie worked, but with superheroes instead of harpers and paladins and wizards. So anyways, thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about Fantastic Four First Steps, Superman, the modern superhero project in general. And
more like Galactus pussy, yeah. Giant space pussy, giant space pussy, giant space pussy boy.